capitalism, which is you use philanthropy to make yourself rich, and you use it strategically, and that's what he's done again and again. He's gotten control of the World Health Organization so that they mandate vaccines all over the world, and the companies that make those vaccines are Gates is, in many of them, the major shareholder. And he did the same thing with the Green Revolution. He got a hold of the regulatory agencies in African countries and forced them to change the nature of agriculture. There's 20,000 generations of agriculture of people growing crops like sorghum and plantains and yucca and all these plants for subsistence. And he said, no, we're going to transfer them all to these, GMO monocultures of corn, and then we're going to bring in companies that he owns, Kraft, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, these big food companies, processing companies, to buy that, and that's going to be the deal. And then, of course, during COVID, all of that shut down, and you had, there's 30 million Africans now as a direct result of Gates's policy who are now on the edge of starvation.
Tell that story that you shared with me a couple of years ago about the vaccines that Gates sent over supposedly for women that, I don't know, was to control birth control or what? Exactly.
That's another. I think the real tell was what happened with the DTP vaccine, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Because of Gates pushing this shot, is now the number one vaccine in the world, DTP. And it's mainly given in Africa. It was that particular shot is discontinued in the United States because it was killing or badly injuring 1 out of every 300 kids who took it. We ended it in Europe and the United States, but Gates is giving it to every kid in Africa. And in 2017, he asked the Danish government for money to support this program, and it said, we've saved 20 million kids. The Danish government said, can you show us the data? He couldn't. So the Danish government went and did its own study, and they had records of 30 years of this vaccine in a country called Guinea-Bissau. And they looked at the records, and what they realized in retrospect, which they were never seeing, is that the girls who were getting that vaccine at 6 months of age were 10 times more likely to die over the next 6 months as children who didn't get it. And they were dying of things that nobody on the ground had ever associated with vaccination. They were dying of anemia and bilharzia and malaria and dysentery and nobody had made the connection that it's only the girls who got the vaccine who were dying of those things, that the other kids were much healthier. And the Danish government had retained the greatest vaccine scientists. All of them were pro-vaccine. A guy called Peter A. Aby, who's like a deity in that space, and another guy called Sigrid Morgensen. And a whole team of scientists knew that, and those scientists started speaking up and saying, you got to discontinue this vaccine, and their careers, Gates made sure their careers were destroyed. So that's